Hi, everybody. My name is Madeline. I'm excited to welcome you to our Pillars of Keyword Research webinar today. I am the content specialist here for Boostability, and I am sharing the mic today with Kyle Kuhn, who is our resident SEO fulfillment specialist. He'll be our expert for the next hour or so as we walk through keyword research and how it affects SEO. Before we get started, I wanted to remind everybody that we are going to be live tweeting this, so you can find us on Twitter at Boostability. We'll be accepting questions there as well as on the webinar platform. So if at any point you have a question about something we talk about, feel free to enter it in. We'll answer them as best we can as we go through our presentation, but we're also saving about 10 to 15 minutes at the end for any additional questions that we don't get a chance to cover in the middle. So Kyle, before we get started, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, I've been at Boostability for around 6.5 years. I've been within the industry of digital marketing for over 10. I've dabbled in PPC, website design, and now SEO. And I enjoy the outdoors, sports, and Dr. Pepper.
Sounds great. All right, so before we kind of dive into the nitty-gritty, let's talk about some really important basics. You've got definitions for us on two really important facets of keyword research, keywords themselves, and then keyword research as a whole. So walk us through the definitions that we have on this slide here and how we can make sure we understand those before we move on.
Yeah, so a keyword or a keyword phrase is typically a phrase or a word that you type into the search engine that provokes some type of an action or seeking in some type of an information to provide answers to that question.
Okay, so that graphic that we have on the right side of the screen, all of those are keywords?
Correct, yes.
Okay, and then now knowing kind of what a basic keyword is, what's keyword research?
So keyword research is we take information from the website and we review and any additional notes that we gather from the client, and we review that, look at the trends on the website and throughout Google and what people are searching, and come up with keywords that are going to be the best possibility to rank on Google.
Okay, so you're trying to make sure that when somebody is typing in a keyword into a search engine like Google, a client's web page is one of the first ones that shows up.
Correct.
Okay, great. So with that kind of basic understanding under our belt, let's talk about that first pillar, which is keywords. But it turns out that there are 3 different kinds we're going to be talking about. So why don't you walk us through that first one, browsing keywords?
Yes, so a browsing keyword is a very general, very broad keyword where you're still gathering a lot of information, where it's more general, but the traffic in this keyword is pretty high because it's very general and you're gathering just information all about, in this example, men's running shoes. So you're gathering all the different types of styles of running shoes, whether it's marathon, trial, casual, or trail running shoes, or casual, and then all the different other types of brands as well. And even if you want to go local to the stores as well. So you're gathering how you want to act, how you want to proceed on to the next stage.
Okay, so using a browsing keyword is going to bring in a wide variety of search results, won't be necessarily as specific as some of the ones we'll talk about in just a minute.
Correct.
Okay, and when customers use these kinds of browsing keywords, they show up at the beginning of their search journey, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so now that we kind of understand browsing keywords, let's, I guess for lack of a better word, compare that to comparing keywords.
So comparing keywords, you're into that next stage where you're adding descriptive terms or a qualifying phrase where you're making it more specific. So in this case, you're adding Under Armour to men's running shoes. So you're negating Adidas, Reebok, Saucony, Asics, all those other style of running shoes, and you're focusing solely on Under Armour, where you're comparing within Under Armour all the different styles of running shoes, colors, and all that stuff to see which one is going to be the best fit for you.
Okay, and where do comparing keywords fit in the general customer journey?
So it's still, I would say it's in the middle stage where they have an idea of where they want to go, but they're still gathering a little bit more information. There is a little bit more higher intent because, say for instance, if a website is just killing it and they have everything laid out accordingly, they could act and purchase right then and there. But most of the time that happens in the next stage.
They'll still need a little bit more information before.
Yep.
Okay, great, makes sense. Okay, let's talk about then the last type of keyword, which is a buying keyword. How does that compare to comparing keywords and browsing keywords?
So buying keywords are more specific and to the point where you have an idea of really what you want to focus in on, and the consumer and the searcher, it pretty much has their money out saying, please take it at that point, because they really know and understand what they want to focus in on. And so in this scenario, men's Under Armour Charge Bandit size 10 running shoes, that is a very specific keyword phrase, and you know what you're looking for at that point. And so from browsing your just men's running shoes to comparing to Under Armour or men's Under Armour running shoes, and then now to the buying men's Under Armour Charge Bandit size 10 running shoes, you know exactly what you want, and you're just looking for the proper site to buy it from.
Okay. Now, the traffic for buying keywords, is that, much lower than, say, browsing keywords?
Yes, the traffic would be lower, but the intent to act and purchase is a lot higher, so that return on investment is a lot higher at this stage.
Okay. Let's then talk about knowing how to determine which kind of keywords you potentially want to focus on during a campaign. Does it go in the same order that the consumer journey follows?
It's actually different, where to establish your campaign, you want to start with the buying keywords, because that is laying the foundation of your campaign and of your site to become relevant in the eyes of Google, and to establish that foundation in the eyes of those that are landing on your website as well. And then the comparing is the only one that really doesn't change. It's still in that middle stage where you're pretty much putting up the framework of that relevancy and that authority for your campaign. And then that last stage of the browsing, that's where it's a little bit more vague. You see the framework of the house, you see it's all created and built, and now you have something to really act upon and enjoy.
Got it.
As an SEO campaign.
So it seems, really kind of just the SEO campaign works in the opposite direction of the consumer buying journey. But I guess the way that you've explained it, it makes a lot of sense. Starting with buying keywords, traffic, so you have less competition, you're more likely to rank for those top spots for those keywords, especially for people who are ready to, like you said, hand over their wallet at that really key critical stage in the buying journey, and then work your way down to browsing keywords where there's more competition, more traffic, a little bit more difficult to rank to that high spot. But if you've established that kind of authority in the space, it's going to be a little bit easier.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Perfect. So let's talk about our second pillar now, which is SERP Intent. SERP is an acronym we use. It stands for Search Engine Results Page. So basically the list of results that Google will return to you when you put in a keyword into that search bar, correct?
Correct.
Great. Okay, so let's talk about how the SERPs affect keyword research. You talk about SERP Intent being something that's really important. What exactly is it?
So SERP intent should match the keyword. So if I type in landscaping, what am I trying to get out of that? Is it repair? Is it maintenance? Or is it installation? So if you type in landscaping company, what are you trying to get out of it? You're going to get a mix of all of those. But if I'm solely focusing in on maintenance, I need to type in landscaping maintenance, because that's where that intent of more maintenance, landscaping maintenance results are going to show up, instead of having repair and installation trickle through.
I see. So you want to make sure that the people who are using these particular keywords match the services and products that you're providing.
Right.
So if you don't necessarily understand what your users would be searching for, there's no way that you can actually target your site or optimize your site in order to find them.
Yep.
Okay. But here we've mentioned that the SERPs fluctuate, so that results page isn't always the same. Why is that?
So in the eyes of Google, they always want to try to find the best possible results to put on the first page. And so making sure that the keywords are properly match the intent of the website, and the SERPs are matching that intent as well, you're going to have a higher possibility to maintain that SERP relevant and that fluctuation, where with that fluctuation, it's pretty typical to see a fluctuation of 10 rankings. But as long as you see that upward trajectory of moving towards that first page, you're moving in the right direction.
Do companies like Boostability stay on top of why the SERPs may be fluctuating?
Absolutely. On the keyword research team, as well as the CSRs, they always look into ways that can help benefit the campaigns. They look into why, if there's a drop in the rankings, they know why, and we can help them to remedy that to where they're back on that track to that first page.
Okay, so just making sure you have, I guess, experts kind of keeping tabs on why things are changing.
Yep.
Okay, let's walk through a couple of examples to make sure that we really understand this. So let's go back to the running shoes sample that we've been using. Turns out that if you search for running shoes on a desktop device versus a mobile one, the search, your search experience and the keywords that you use may be different. Can you tell us why?
Yeah, so for desktop, you're gathering more information, trying to seek things out a little bit more, whether to purchase online, where with mobile, it's going to be a little bit more shorthand and more near me, because you're gathering information from like an IP address from your phone to gather which stores are around you, because you're needing to act pretty quickly for that. Where desktop, you're gathering information and wanting to move forward with a little bit more strategic plan.
Oh yeah, I mean, I guess I don't usually carry my desktop computer around in my car with me, and so my phone searches are going to be a little bit different. But then there are a couple other factors that can change how your search results present themselves. What are they?
So for that, IP address and the search history. So your search history, if you're looking for Under Armour running shoes, you're going to see a lot of Under Armour running shoes or different brands that you really like gravitate towards the top of the SERPs, because your cache and your history will kind of populate in that area. And then your IP address will show, if you just type in running shoes, you're going to get a mix of local as well as national, because you're going to get the Nikes, the Under Armours, the Adidas main website, but you're going to get the local stores that provide that as well.
And I guess this is the reason that if I'm on Instagram and searching for, say, running shoes from Reebok, when I go to Facebook or show up to, my Google search results, Reebok is probably going to be somewhere near the top or in an advertisement placement. Those cookies kind of follow you. All right. So you mentioned a couple slides ago this concept of a qualifying phrase or a qualifying word that's added to a keyword. And those are pretty significant when it comes to determining how to read the SERPs. So talk to us a little bit more about qualifying phrases and why they matter in keyword research.
Yeah, so a qualifying phrase, once again, is very descriptive as to what separates that product or service that you're trying to find. And so drain cleaning, as an example, if you type that into Google, you're going to get a mixed results of reviews, articles, and some DIY stuff, in addition to some companies. And so there's a lot of mix in that area, where if you type in drain cleaning services, you're wanting to have someone come to your home and to fix those and to fix your drain, and you're not wanting to do it yourself. So it's going to be pretty concise. And that's why if you include maintenance, how do I need to clean out my drain on a regular basis, repair and design, all of those things are very good qualifying phrases to help bring in to specify the more specific qualifying results in the SERP.
It's a little wild that a single word can tell Google that I have no intention of putting my hand down my own drain and I want somebody else to do it for me. But it seems like these, one or two additional words really can determine whether or not you're finding the right customers to match for your particular product or service.
Exactly.
Okay, let's now move on to our third pillar, which we have deemed relevant content. And the concept of relevant content is pretty standard. Content should always be relevant. But how do we determine whether or not content is actually relevant for searchers?
So the biggest thing is, do you want your content to answer questions and provide value, to where if you go to a website and they have information but it's not really answering your questions, they're going to bounce and they're going to go to another place, another website that can answer those questions for you, where if they stayed with that on your website, you're going to have a lot more relevancy on your website, where you're going to slowly climb in the SERPs a lot quicker, where if they're bouncing off, then you're going to slowly decline because Google is always trying to find that best.
So if people are coming to your site and then leaving quickly, we term that bounce rate. Google decides that that makes your site less relevant than others?
Yes, because the questions are not being answered by the website compared to the searcher.
Okay, so it seems like, I guess, as we mentioned here, time on site is a pretty good indicator as to whether or not your website is answering users' questions.
Correct.
So, if they're staying on for longer, they're probably getting the information that they need. Okay. So let's now talk about how keyword research can help determine what kinds of relevant content you need to include. We have a series of questions that we encourage businesses to ask themselves, but it's also a series of questions that you and your keyword research team ask on behalf of clients when they work with us. Can you talk to us about why these particular questions are really important and what kind of information they give you?
Yes, absolutely. So the first question is, what are my consumers looking for, searching for? So it's very important that, okay, what are they wanting to find on my website, and how can we translate that into a search keyword or to a keyword that will help people find what they're looking for. Why are they looking at my site? Because you're an authority in that industry, and we want to highlight that so you can have that success. And we want to make sure that we provide the best possible keywords to enable that success. And then what do they want me to help accomplish? Well, most of the time it's calls, it's a sale, it's some type of an action that you want, where, and even if it's information, it's time on site. Do you want to have that time on site where you can really become an authority? And then what questions need to be answered to make that decision? And those questions are very important, because some of those questions, the consumer, the searcher may not know that they need to be searching for that or taking that into consideration. So having that information in there is incredibly crucial, because you're now becoming that authority and establishing yourself as an authority, so you can really have that success on your SEO campaign and as a company.
Let's say that I'm a business, but I'm struggling to answer these questions for myself. How would you and your team go about answering them in order to determine what keywords you want to target on a site?
So with this is, if there's a lot of minimal content, we actually do like a very high level of competitive research just to see how they're doing, where we want to make sure that we can perform at the same level and make sure that our client can match that, if not exceed it. And so if they don't have enough content, we, the keyword research team, will provide recommendations for them to improve their content.
Okay, great. Let's now talk then about this concept of relevant content as current content. That seems like a no-brainer, but walk us through really why that's so important.
So content is so crucial, and specifically relevant content. And so if I have content that's a few years outdated and it's more common knowledge, it's not being very beneficial and useful to the searcher. Where if there's, with all the innovations of technology advancements in almost every single industry and niche, there's going to be some type of adjustment to make sure that content is still relevant. And so with phones, if my content is 10 years old, it's going to be very outdated, and I'm not an authority, because we have supercomputers in our pockets every single day with our phones.
So if we're saying that content will necessarily need to change because, like you mentioned, industries, regardless of where or how you're positioned in them, are going to change all the time, does that mean the keywords that clients or potential consumers are using will also change?
Potentially, but ultimately the concept, the keyword will relatively stay the same, but it's how you phrase it in that content will be the adjustment, because that technology, how it's being done from to starting to get the quote or to the end service, or how you get the product, will change, but the service and product itself will pretty much stay the same. Every once in a while it'll change, and that's what the keyword research will do. Team will research and actually analyze to make sure that it's still a part of the trend and people are commonly using that, and not just an out of the dark phrase.
So essentially, you're making sure that the messaging that clients are using to talk about their product or service matches what the industry is doing, even if the product or service itself doesn't change.
Correct.
Okay, great. So with those kind of basic things intact, let's do a quick recap. If you had, 90 seconds to go over everything we've talked about in the last 20 minutes, how would you do it?
So keywords is the platform to where the foundation to where you can really set up the proper keywords to help your campaign success. SERP Intent as your keywords and the SERP Intent match, you're really helping your campaign create that proper framework, and then that relevant content is really taking your campaign, your website to that next level for success as you succeed and become that authority and become more relevant in your industry.
And all three of these components work together, obviously, as a support for the rest of an SEO campaign. What kind of additional work do they, lay the foundation for?
So anything with making sure that you can become an authority so you can get external links and people will reach out to you, and that additional information that can help for on-site but also off-site SEO as well can be really beneficial, and that's how Boostability can really excel and help SEO campaigns really succeed because we are the best in the business.
Great. Let's talk a little bit about that before we open it up to questions. Why is Boostability going to be one of the best choices for engaging in keyword research and creating an SEO campaign?
We do all the keyword research domestically for Boostability, and we do a really good job at it. And we do the best. We want to make sure that we provide the best keywords and opportunity for success for those campaigns. And we know that Boostability has that opportunity because our niche is small to medium-sized companies.
Yeah, really small and medium-sized businesses are our bread and butter. If you're an enterprise level, we'll find you a good match. But really, at the end of the day, we're here to support small businesses. They're really acting as kind of the backbones of economies all over the world. So that's kind of our main focus. All right, we've got a couple questions that we're going to go ahead and start answering. Like I mentioned before, please feel free to send them in through Twitter at Boostability or here on the webinar platform. The first one I have for you, Kyle, is where does keyword research fit into the big SEO picture?
So keyword research is probably one of the more initial things that you want to succeed or kind of focus in on, because it's that foundation where if you have an idea of what keywords you want to focus on and excel at, then you can really branch out and get really specific into helping each of those areas succeed. That way you have a little bit more of a pointed direction instead of just shooting from the hip, in essence.
So really keywords are where you start.
Yes.
And then do you monitor these keywords throughout the campaign, or do you just pick them and then never look at them again?
The keyword research team will pick them, and we do monitor them every once in a while just to see how they perform. But that's where the customer service reps here at Boostability will monitor and track them and help you set up for success.
But somebody is always watching those keywords.
Always watching, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
But then what happens once your keywords do start ranking on page one? What happens next?
Then you have that opportunity to where you can cycle through and create a new stage of keywords where you can focus in on something a little bit more specific or another area or something a little bit more general, depending on the avenue that you want to go.
Okay, so there's always, I guess, an opportunity to be targeting more keywords in more places.
Correct.
Okay, great. Our second question, what are some action items I can take to pick better keywords?
The biggest thing is to focus in on what you want to get out of your campaign. What do you want people to get out of your website? So if it's something to act, what's an actionable phrase that will provide somebody to actually act? And so defining that, depending on the niche, can be very helpful, but that's how Boostability can really help you in, because we are very confident and experienced in a lot of industries that we can help you find those specific keywords as well.
Okay, and I guess that would vary based on business, right? Some would prefer, we want you to give us a call so you can talk to one of our sales reps, or we want you to schedule a live demo so you can see our product live. We want you to visit our warehouse or our storefront. I guess really just deciding how do you want to interact with your client and how are you going to make sure that they get to that stage? Exactly. That really is what the goal should be.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Let's take a look at this third question. Voice technology and smart speakers. Do those kind of growing technologies change keyword research?
That is a fantastic question. At this point, I would say it could, but I think it's early in the stages where I'm not as familiar with that voice. But if it's a phrase where you're using just the mic on your phone to type out those phrases, it's going to inevitably be the same concept as just typing it out.
Got it. And I do think, especially given the trend that we've seen towards voice searches, that probably will be a little bit more popular as we move forward. I don't know what the statistics are, but I know a large portion of at least American households have some form of a voice search, whether that be an Alexa or a Google Home or something like that.
Yep.
And I do know that, at least in my experience, the voice searches may be a little bit different. I'll usually speak in complete sentences when I'm speaking to my Alexa versus when I'm typing something into Google. I may be shortening that phrase, but those keywords really do stay the same.
Yeah.
So, okay. Our next question: how does Boostability compare to companies in, say, India who solicit services? How do we compare to those kind of offshore workers?
So all the work that Boostability does is in-house within Boostability. We do have locations in Europe as well, but we handle all of the services in-house. And so whenever you have any questions, you'll be speaking to us specifically to the CSRs, and you'll be able to get those answers pretty quick.
And does doing things in-house, do you see that has really, increased quality? How do you make sure that the work you're doing is actually going to be effective?
Yeah, I think it really does improve quality, so you can make sure that everybody is on the same page to help move forward with that success, and to make sure that the campaigns really are progressing in the proper manner that they should.
And I think, as you mentioned, Kyle, we do have locations in Europe that we service, and I believe as of right now we service 15 different languages, 9 different languages, 15 different countries. And we do that all with native speakers. So you'll always have someone who speaks the language of whatever kind of fulfillment work they're doing. It'll be a native speaker, someone who's very comfortable in that language, obviously. So you're always going to get somebody who is helping you, create content to fit that keyword strategy in a way that will relate to customers who are searching in that language.
Absolutely.
Okay, so a little while ago you mentioned the difference between local and national keywords. I'm wondering if you could expound on the differences between those two and when you might want to focus on one more than the other.
Yeah, so a national keyword is running shoes. That is a very classic national keyword where there's not really a qualifier to where if it was running shoes, Salt Lake City or Orem or Lehigh or New York or anything like that, that specific location is making it local and is a qualifier in and of itself. And so depending on the service, you may want to be more informational and get more national information because you can get more informational that way. But when you wanting to get like services, it's probably going to be more of a local type search.
Okay, so yeah, if I'm offering, say, home organizational services, probably not going to be flying out to meet clients on the other side of the country. I'm going to want to focus on people in my area who are looking for my services. But if I provide some sort of digital product, I may be able to service clients really anywhere in the world. So I probably want to target more national keywords in that respect because I'm able to provide that service in a way that works for them.
Exactly. And the one caveat is that if you have a really niche product or service, you can potentially target both at the same time.
Oh, okay, great. We are, I think, wrapping up. We don't have any additional questions. If there is something about this webinar that you want more information about, please reach out to us through Twitter. We'll find a way to connect and we'll walk you through any questions that you have. If you are interested in getting started, figuring out what keywords to target and having some really great professionals help you craft an SEO strategy, visit our website or give us a call. We're happy to chat and figure out an option that works best for you. Regardless of your industry or your product or service that you're marketing, we can do something for almost any business at almost any budget. So we're excited to see how we can help you grow your web presence online. Big thank you to Kyle for sharing his expertise with us, and we will catch you next time.